Hi, I'm Sandi Genovese, and we're going to create a really fun dimensional birthday card today. Here is the card, and you can see that it features cupcakes, which I'm seeing as birthday, but of course the idea of how to make the dimensionality is what is fun to learn, and then you can put inside any item that you want to reinforce the theme of the card that you want to create. So the thing you want to start with, look at how fun this is when you look at it from all these angles. It just sits up on display so beautifully, but it folds flat, which means that it will easily fit into an envelope. And as I always say, make sure that you start with the size of your envelope to make sure that the card that you fit will have a home when you're finished. What the size of my envelope, this is 5 1/4 by 7 1/4. And notice that this is a little bit larger. When I have dimensionality with all these folds, I accommodate that by making the envelope, my size of envelope that I select is a little bit bigger so that it's not so hard to push it in when I'm trying to accommodate this thickness. So once you have the envelope, then we're going to actually build the form itself. It's like a pleated frame, and I'm calling it a frame because if you'll look at this, you'll see what I mean. You start with a piece of, I started with cream colored or white cardstock, and the dimensions of this is 6 1/2 by 9. And I'm going to have a frame all around the outside edge that's the same. So it's easiest to cut a guide and use it. This happens to be 1 3/8 of an inch. And what I'm going to do is lay it down, and with a pencil, I'm going to trace and work my way around. And if I flip it over, you'll see I've already done that on this side. So basically you're going to lay it down, line it up with the edge of the card, and then draw the pencil line, and then rotate it to the next edge, line it up with the edge, and then draw your pencil line. Keep going so that you do that all the way around the outside edge, and that gives you the outside frame. For the interior pleats, these are only 1 inch apart, and I happen to have a ruler that is 1 inch wide. So what I did was I laid my ruler down and lined it up with my first pencil line, and then drew the next pencil, and then used this as a guide to move it, and kept adding my 1 inch lines this way. If you don't happen to have a ruler or something that's already 1 inch, do the same thing. Cut yourself a guide that's 1 inch wide, and that way you can just keep moving it down in order to create those interior pleats. When it comes time to cut this, what we're going to do is just cut the vertical. Just these 2 lines are going to be cut lines. All the rest inside will be fold lines. So if you haven't seen how easy it is when you're doing straight cuts, using this cutter, this the one that I'm using here, you can see I was using it to cut photos. So let me get rid of that. But every place where there's a pencil line, I'm going to align the wire that's in the actual cutting tool. If I put my hand behind it, the wire is right inside, and the wire is how you align where your cuts are going to go. So I'm going to take my paper and put it flush against the track, and then close this over. I'm going to bring this out of the way because that's where the blade is, and I'm going to slide this until you look closely. I can see the pencil line is just starting to show. It's starting to show. I'm going to slide it until the pencil is exactly under that wire, and when it's right under the wire, then I'm going to bring this, and I'm going to bring it even further in than I need to go. And I'm going to push down and slide and cut until my holder aligns with my pencil line. So when I feel like this lines up with where I want to start, and then I'm going to slide and I'm going to cut until, once again, this hold line lines up with my pencil line. And I can always pick up and see, did I go? Yep, I did. Then I'm going to turn this around and repeat the process, but this time lining it up with my pencil line on the other edge. Once you've created the cuts, now we need to do the score lines. So every place where I've marked the fold lines, I'm going to take my scoring tool and my ruler, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a score right along each one of these lines in between the cut line that I just made. So now I'm scoring on, I think this is the last scoring line. Yeah. So I have all of my score lines. Now it's a question of folding on the scores. If I want the pencil lines to be on the flip side, that way I won't ever have to worry about erasing them. That means that my first fold is going to be a valley fold. So I'm going to just make a little valley fold here. And then I'm going to do a mountain, a valley, and just keep folding accordion style on each of these till I get to this end. I think it's easiest to pull this back around and do the final valley fold. Now, those were just really light little finger folds. That's not a very strong crease. So now, and I've used a thick cardstock for this. So I'm going to really reinforce those lines. So you can see I've got all my folds. Now I'm going to fold the whole card in half. I'm going to just lay this down so that the top and the bottom are straight and line up, and then go ahead and fold at the top on both sides of what I was calling a frame. And I think I'll take my scoring tool and really reinforce those folds on both ends. Try to do this so my hand's a little bit out of the way. This is going to give you this structure, which is just, and any of the pencil lines are going to all be on the inside, so you don't even have to worry about erasing them. Now it's time to decorate, and what I do is I decorate the frame outside portion first, and then we'll look at creating what's going to go inside the pleats, and in my example it's cupcakes. What I did to create the decoration is I started with pattern paper, and I'm going to just lay it down. So I'm going to put adhesive on the back of this, and it looks like I need to go, oh, not quite all the way, to about right here. And remember, you're probably going to want more adhesive than me. Just to save time, I'm putting enough to make it buildable. So what I'm going to do is line this up with the side and the bottom. I want to make sure I get it straight. I think what I'm going to do is lay this back out flat. It will be a little bit easier to tell when the bottom and the side are straight. So line up both ends with the bottom and the side of my pattern paper. There we go. And then press it down. And I'm only pressing on the outside edge, and here I don't want to go into these pleats yet. What I'm going to do first is trim off the excess that's on the side. So I'll first get rid of that. And now I need to trim off here. The simplest way to do that is to turn it over and just cut. I'll try to do this so you can see. No, I bet you can see easier on this one. I'm going to cut right along the edge of my frame until I get to the score and stop. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. If I can, I'll try to move this out of the way so you can see a little bit better what I'm doing. Cutting right along that edge and stop. Now, instead of trying to get in here and cut this, all I'm going to do is fold it. I can fold it down and it will just go inside that pleat. It's way easier than trying to get in there and trim. And when I go back and fold and put my embellishments inside, you are never going to even know. In fact, it almost looks kind of cool that you have more embellishment on that back side. So that gives you the base. Then I wanted to add a couple of other details. You can see I have a band of this paper and then pattern paper. I think I'm going to start, just in case my measurements are a little off, I'm going to start with the band at the top. So let me put... Looks like it's already the right dimension if I go this way. So I will put adhesive and I'll do one edge. If it's wider, it's going to be easiest to trim off this edge than this edge. So I'm going to go right to this. I could fold over, but I don't want to waste any pattern paper because I'm going to use it on the flip side, and who knows if I have more of this exact same paper. So I'm going to just trim at the fold line to give me this. And then I'm going to repeat the same process on the other end. And now I'll take this band of paper that I want to create more pattern and more of a definition between these two layers. So I'm going to go back and add a strip of red into each of these sections. So I'll just line this up with the black, and then I'll get my scissors. Hopefully if I do this way, you can see, trim off the excess. Ooh. See, I cut it crooked right there. And then do the same thing on the other end. Lay this down so it lines up with the end and with the black and white pattern paper, and trim off the excess. And now I've decorated the outside frame. Now it's a question of the things that go inside. You can see that in my example, I used cupcakes. This is up to you what you want to put inside, but since I'm going to turn it into a birthday card, that my phrasing will say something like, let them eat cupcakes, or you take the cupcake. I'm not sure exactly, but I'm going to somehow phrase it with cupcakes in there. So what I did was I drew a cupcake, and you can see if you look at this that I have different sizes. These two are the smallest in the front, and then I have two medium sizes in the middle, and then the largest one in the back. So it's kind of like I have the baby bear, the mama bear, and the papa bear cupcakes. It's simplest to just draw one cupcake and then put it in the copier and enlarge it to the different sizes. So here I've got the smallest one, and then I'm going to cut two of those. I'm going to cut two of this next size, and then one of the one that goes in the back. And I turned out not to need this larger size. I just was playing around with sizes when I was building this card. So whatever design you choose, just do it in 3 sizes. It really adds to the dimensionality, and it helps to be able to see into all those other layers. Once you've created whatever designs you want and you have them in the size you want, use it as a guide, as a pattern for cutting them out of paper. And what I do, this is going to be the back, this is the largest one. I go ahead and I take this and I'm going to put adhesive on the back side of these areas so that I'm not putting adhesive, even though it's removable and I could rub it off, but in case you're using adhesive that's not removable, I'm going to put adhesive, or I could staple in these edges, and then I'm going to attach it to the brown. So if I turn it over, and by holding it up to the light, I can tell where to go. And I'm going to place it. I have just such a small scrap of paper. Once again, I'm going to have to hold this up to the light. I'm hoping that I can manage to get this out of this one piece of paper. Aha! Now it will stay intact for me to cut around the whole outside of this pattern. So I'm going to just start here and cut away. You want to be sure and start by cutting the brown paper first because it's the largest background piece. And that way you only need one pattern. We're going to keep using the same pattern to cut all the next layers. So here I'm going to cut off. So now I've cut the brown that's going to be the background or the structure. And now I need to cut the pattern papers that are going to sit on top. The next one that I'll do is this darker pink. And so I am going to have to use removable or try to put my adhesive in this section that isn't not going to show because it's going to have another color on top of it. I'm going to go ahead and place just a few little dots of adhesive, enough to hold this onto the pink. And once again, I'm going to cut, but this time I'm only cutting out the pink portion, the top section. So I'm going to use my same pattern. Because I used it to cut the brown, if I'm careful about how I cut, it will align. If you're going to miss, it's better to miss by going a little bit fatter on the icing because then the brown isn't going to show. Although if it does show in any one little spot, you just trim it off. So this is going to give me the layer that's going to sit on top like so. And now I want the last layer, which is this band right here. So I'm going to take a little more adhesive, and I'm going to take this pattern paper. This time I just need to make sure that I'm grabbing the portion of the paper that is going to be out of the lighter pink. And as soon as I get it lined up, I'll move my hands because they may be in the way for you not to see. So I can see I'm going to catch this edge, and however, I need to make sure by holding it up that I've got all my pink paper. And I'm going to cut around just what is the middle section of the icing. So now I'm going to just go ahead. This layer will now go right on top, and you can see how this is going to all go together. Before I start gluing those down, I wanted the cupcake base to look more cupcake-like, and I think that works by adding in the lines that show the accordion folding of that cupcake liner. So I usually start somewhere in what feels like the middle and do my first line in the middle, and then use that as a guide to go out to the edges. And if you've ever noticed, I say all the time, I sort of like things that aren't perfectly symmetrical and aren't perfectly straight. So you could certainly use a ruler to draw these lines. I just like the look better when it doesn't look perfect. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'll put adhesive on the back. Try to use my tweezers so my fingers are pretty much out of the way, and I'm going to layer this on top of the pink, and then I'm going to place adhesive on the back of this, and layer this on top of the brown base. So now it's time to add the detail. Sometimes you add a cherry, sometimes I add a candle. In this example, I added a strawberry. If you can see here on each of these, I tucked in between these, that middle layer, I tucked a strawberry in. So I'm going to take this, doesn't matter which, I'll take a sticker of a strawberry, and I'm going to tuck it in between that layer, like so. And you can get in here with some baking powder or baby powder, and with a paintbrush just paint on the back, and it will make the adhesive go away on the back of that sticker. So you see that that's how I created, in this example, the largest cupcake. I've already gone ahead and using the same technique, I've cut the two cupcakes that are going to be the front layer, and then the middle layer, and now we've got the back layer. So let's go ahead and place them in. I think that it's simplest to do the back first. So the back one is going to sit inside like so. So I'm going to go ahead and put my adhesive and place this. You want to make sure when you close this up, the height of this, you can see I could bring this up just a little, have it even be a little taller. I just don't want to go any taller than the height of this, because then it might not fit in the envelope. So once the back layer is in, then we're going to add the next two layers. So I'll take one of the medium-sized ones and the other medium-sized one, and I'll place those inside. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to put adhesive on the bottom section of what will be the cupcake. Place this into this pleat, and I'm going to lightly position it where I want it. I'm going to push just a little bit so it won't move too much. I'll put my adhesive on the orange one. I'm going to come up one more pleat and place this one here. You can see how you're building the design. And then the final two in the front, I'm just going to go ahead and put adhesive on this and attach this right to the front, and put adhesive on this guy and attach this in this position roughly there. So you can see it goes together pretty easy. Doesn't take a whole lot of time. And once you've mastered this technique, it's simple to change these out. You can see when you look at the finished one or the one that we just built. I mean, it really does go together nicely. Once again, make sure that it fits your envelope. But this style of card, it's so versatile. I bet you're going to make tons.